What's up, everybody? Welcome to Value Town. I'm here with ChanManV, joined today by three guys you know very well in the community. Team owners, casters, players, all that good stuff. Reynad, Savjz, Noxious, welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks.
Good beer.
The
Yeah,
new
Reynad,
sheriff in Value Town, guys. Reynad. But we got a lot of great topics to talk about today. Gonna kick things off with some community talk. I kind of hinted at it last week, but I really want to talk a little bit more about things going on in the community on Value Town. We've always focused so much on just the game that I kind of want to add that. We'll still do our card talk, deck talk, meta talk, like we do each and every week, but wanted to infuse some community talk too. But great to have the three of you guys here. I think it's a pretty good mix of just a lot of the different kind of topics we can talk about, having, just not having just players on the show. Wanted to kick things off, though, by talking about the Blizzard EU, or just Blizzard Championships. So EU and I think Asia happened this past week. And Savjz, you had like a front row seat casting the EU Championships. So what are your thoughts on it?
No, I was just like the exact words that I was going to. It was pretty good. The arena was amazing. It was actually the live audience that showed up in Prague was mind blowing. I've been to a lot of Hearthstone events, but I've never seen anything quite like that. I throw down Twitter out a picture, which I also retweeted if anybody wants to take a look at what exactly was going on. There was so many people that showed up. It was incredible, and all the matches were really great. In the end, it was Thais walking away from us the winner, but top four. So top four qualified to BlizzCon, including Nairia, Life Coach, and Ostkaka as well. And out of the 8 players that we had there, I think that the 4 most popular and well-known ones made it through. So that should make for an exciting BlizzCon too.
Yeah, definitely. From an entertainment standpoint, it's good to have players that everybody knows. Obviously, there's always good to have some unknown players too to try to make a name for themselves. But yeah, EU is just definitely pretty well known folks. The stock being probably the least known, but even that, he's just been so good for so long that people know him at this point.
Really? Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't know, maybe he's less known. I just been casting a lot of his stuff and watching a lot of his stuff, so maybe I'm like the exception. But I've seen him around a lot more these days than a long time ago. Yeah,
definitely. Did you guys catch the Life Coach Pavel match? Reynad and Noxious? What'd y'all think of that? I mean, of course, that was like a mistake, but having that happen just like at that moment, I mean, that was pretty unbelievable.
That was insane. I didn't cast the match, but I was watching it, and that was like one of the most memorable moments that we ever had in a match with such high stakes. It was such a simple mistake too. We had been discussing it a lot that Pavel was playing quite fast in the earlier matches, but he was still making great plays, and it didn't seem to affect his gameplay. It was not that he was playing fast and making a lot of mistakes, but it was something that we felt like, okay, maybe he should slow down a little, and now he like kind of paid the ultimate cost for playing so fast.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. Reynad, what'd you think?
I've seen it happen one other time at WCA, if anyone remembers. The guy had like an Alakir and a totem. Or he had like a Sylvanas to trade in or something, and he like plays Alakir first when his only minion is a totem. Trades in Sylvanas then, wins the coin flip because there's no god, and then hits him for lethal with Alakir. So it was, or sorry, the other guy had
That's
Sylvanas.
pretty amusing though. But...
Okay, so the guy has a totem. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the exact situation. All I know is he like played Alakir into Sylvanas when he could have killed it without doing that, and then wins the flip and wins the game. It was crazy.
Oh man,
This time justice was served, so I'm happy.
But yeah, I mean, it was the deciding game for Life Coach, right? Him being up 2-1. But yeah, that was pretty heartbreaking for Pavel there. But pressure, right? Pressure will do that too.
I mean, I'm the worst player under pressure, and I don't even qualify for events. One of the things that I hate about Hearthstone is probably the whole competitive scene, just because I can't handle just having to focus that much. And the only event I attended that was live was like WCA in 2014, I think, and it was like I had the exact same brain fart, like a similar level of brain fart, which was just like you stare at the screen, you know what you're gonna do, and you just completely screw it up. And yeah, I can relate at least to an extent.
Yeah, Ty's winning the EU Championship. He's been on fire lately. The team Hillam obviously winning the ATLC, and then now him winning this. Has this been pretty much overdue for Types, do you think? For a while he was obviously started his career, right, winning a ton of just online tournaments, and then just kind of slowly getting onto the scene, getting invited to all the tournaments, and now he's just starting to win almost everything he enters now. So I don't know. What do you guys think of Tice? We had him on the show a couple weeks ago.
Well, I actually don't think that he was like winning all that much from the beginning of his career. He did well at the King of the Hill thing, and then he had a lot of solid results from tournaments, like top fours and that kind of stuff. He did win a DreamHack Bucharest event, but that was one of the smaller events back then, from out of the live events.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, one of the most consistent players over the years that the Hearthstone has existed. He's always been playing so well, always so consistent. Very few mistakes ever when you watch him play. If you look at his Gozo Gamers statistics, just at his win rates, I think it's the most ridiculous one that anyone has in competitive matches. It's something like almost like that 70%.
70%.
Really
Oh my
impressive.
gosh, that is pretty crazy.
Yeah, so people go up and down. You'll find that sometimes, a player will be at like 66 to 70%, and then they'll fluctuate down, and somebody else will pick up. Like they get like one crazy event. So it tends to be the case that you have a few players at the top who have kind of, they just exchange spots on the ladder on Ghost of Gamers. But Dice has been, I feel like Nihilum together, like the entire team seems to work really well this year. Like Life Coach had his big start in 2015. Like he'd been doing, pretty well the previous year, but now he just kind of skyrocketed, and Dice is following suit. And RDU, being on the same team, of course, that gives him probably, he's a part of the show, basically.
Yeah, definitely the team as a whole, and you hear about them practicing a lot, just practicing together, and I think that's one of the reasons. Not to say that all the other teams don't. All the other teams obviously practice. I'm sure Liquid does and Tempo Storm does, but at least it's more transparent how much they practice. Okay, maybe not. Maybe
No,
not.
they don't. Nobody does.
Nobody does.
We
Okay.
do, and then I don't know, like the meta kind of goes in these rotations of where it's like figured out, sort of, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
for all the way through to BlizzCon, I think that plus or minus one deck, the like Handlock Druid Patron lineup is just like, it's so objectively strong. I don't like, you can replace one of those decks with Secret Paladin and you have like a slightly weaker lineup, but still pretty good. But basically, like, you can practice, but at the end of the day, the highest win percentage lineup is going to be that, and then the person who draws the best with that in a given tournament is usually going to win, which I think is the case with what happened in the Europe Championships. Not that they're not great players. It's like, it's awesome that known players advanced in Europe, and I do think Nylon probably has I would say they have like the strongest lineup right now, because all of them focus on the game, not as much streaming. Or even when Life Coach streams, he's focusing on the game and improving. They all put a lot of hours into it. They all practice a lot. So, like, I think in Hearthstone, the best team is the one that tries the hardest in like a given time period. But I also think that edge is like not that big most of the time that you get from being the like try hardiest team, if that makes sense. A 20% edge is huge, though. If you're getting like a 70% win rate, I don't think most people are. I think most, like, the best players usually get like 65, 66. It's usually like 15% edge, but it's still pretty big in a tournament. But yeah, he played the best lineup. He played it well, as always. Like, it's awesome that he won. I'm really glad. I know, like, the Americas tournament so far had a lot of upsets, a lot of like sketchy plays, and then like the person misplaying ended up winning a lot. But it's cool to see that, like, in Europe, it felt like the better player won most games. It's just, it was cool to watch.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about that last week with Purple, that the American Championship seems to be a lot of the favored players seem to be out of the tournament. But the Americas, that's going to be happening this coming weekend. Asia actually finished too this past week with Krenich winning it. I didn't quite catch the others who won it because I wasn't quite following it. But I did see that Krenich won, which didn't surprise me. He's been a good player for a while now too. But how much do you guys know about the Asian scene there? We talked a little bit last week, right, Reynad, about just a few of those players that you saw in the lineup.
Yeah, yeah, the Asian scene. I mean, I usually ask Eloise for advice about that whole scene. She knows like it's
Right.
good. She knows all the unknown good players. And by
Yeah.
the and yeah, Kranich is he's Korean, right? He's one of
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
I think
Mhm.
it's
only
like
Korean players
Surrender.
I know.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we spent a couple days together in China for one of their events there and got to talk a lot. So yeah, he's definitely good. Um, I, I, I mean, yeah, it's cool to see him advance. I do think though that like just because a player's name is known, it doesn't like automatically mean he's better than some unknown player.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, there's like a correlation because the unknown player would have like made his name known somewhere, right? If he was
Right.
like that much better. But yeah, it's. I want to know about China mostly. That's what I'm curious about. From what I heard, from Eloise at least, the qualification process wasn't like with us. It was like pretty hard to qualify. You had to go through a lot of stages, a lot of steps and stuff. From the China scene, from what I heard, they just had like this one tournament basically.
One tournament. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, more or less. Or it's just a lot like fewer steps. So it was a lot of random players, and the only known player in the top 8 was Tiddler. So I not that those players are bad though. Like personally, I think China is the strongest region, and I think it has been for a long time. But it'll be cool to see like some unknown Chinese players play and see how that goes. I'm definitely excited for it. And I think
What
Ping
was
Ping
their-
Hall also advanced, right? So that's a
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
that's a
what's
player.
the player base like, by the way, like in China? Is it that much bigger than it is here? Because if you look at the amount of people that we see here at top 10, let's say at the end of every ladder season, you tend to see very similar names crop up. Is that the same case over there, or is there like a bigger shuffle?
It's pretty much. I mean, it's sort of the same case. There's just way more. Like in the NA scene, we have like say like 12 players, 10 players, or something you might have heard of. And in China, there's like 120 players.
There's
that
2
can all
billion
play.
people in China. I mean, there should be. There
Right.
should be a lot more people
Yeah.
playing over there, and it'd be interesting to see what the population of Hearthstone players are from China.
Yeah. The thing is that more of them are competitive, and this is a kind of microtransaction game which they eat up over there. So it's hugely popular. The people who play it are way competitive, and like the competitive scene is just more established than the rest of the world easily. Like in Europe and NA, it's usually like the same group of 20 to 30 people that kind of rotates based on the size of the prize pool. Some people accept or decline, plus some invites, and then. In China, though, it's not the same people every tournament. Those tournaments are massive. They have hundreds of people. I think China runs more tournaments than the rest of the world combined. So for them, like it's annoying for them that BlizzCon was like not the best qualification process. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because in the next like month they can have a BlizzCon worth of prize money in just like 4 events. Like every weekend, it's a ton of money up. So
That's
it's
really
just way more
interesting.
established.
Yeah, what about the Team Celestial thing and like Tiddler and guys? I noticed that they added like 20 players to their lineup. They now have around 25 or 30.
What? They have 30 players in their team?
Around that. I
Holy
didn't exactly count,
smokes.
but it was something between 20 and 30, yes.
That's not their main roster though. They have like the Celestial League sort of where they have 20 to 30 people who kind of play these
Oh.
in-house tournaments, and then
Oh,
you can get like promoted up to the main roster.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Oh,
That's
okay,
kinda how it
makes
works.
sense.
It's like a developmental type of
Right.
setup there. Okay, that's cool. I was gonna say
like
30
that.
people. Can you imagine that team house? It's like a
yeah.
giant
I thought
frat
Arcon was
house.
big.
Exactly. No, but that's definitely. Yeah, I'm excited to see, just get to know these Asian players more. Any thoughts on picking up more Asian players, Reynad?
It's tough because as a team owner, it's not like I don't know. Like I would, as much as I think like let's say I think Nylum is the best roster, which I do think they're like the strongest. That's not the kind of roster I would ever sign because marketability matters so much, So it's hard to sign more Asian players because they're not marketable unless they speak reasonably good English. It's really tough for them to be. So it really limits your options. And I don't know of a Chinese, like most of the Chinese players don't speak English. Most of the best Chinese players don't. Tiddler speaks a decent amount, but yeah, it just limits the options a lot as like a Western team owner, I guess.
Well, I guess
If I was
just because you're a Western team owner doesn't mean you can't try to have just a base in China, right? I
Right,
mean,
right.
you could try to just make somebody really popular over there versus over here, and that's
Yeah,
sort
at
of thing.
some point.
Yeah,
Believe it or not,
Yeah.
Chinese teams play with more money. Like, they
Yeah.
have huge investors backing them. Like, I think the richest person in China owns a league team. Like, the literal richest person in that country owns a league team.
really, wow.
And yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy scene. But most of the best players are signed, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, Blizzard again. This is the kind of the main storyline. It's going to move on, or it's going to continue with America this weekend, and that should, I think, wrap things up, right? From the standpoint of all the participants for BlizzCon, I believe yeah, I think that would be the last region. So yeah, I think it's who's going to be? Are you going to be? Somebody going to be? Who's going to be casting this weekend?
This weekend in NA.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. Yeah, I'm flying to San Francisco tomorrow. I'm just stopping by at home for 2 days and streaming a little bit.
Okay,
So tomorrow I'm flying to San Francisco. We're gonna have myself, Brian Gibbler. It's gonna be Vertun from Blizzard, Frodan,
Okay.
and I think Seltzer will be hosting, and
It's usually
somebody
fun.
else casting still. Let me think. I think Amas probably, yeah.
Okay. All right. Good lineup there. Should be a lot of fun, and it's going to be at the
Foundry.
the Foundry, right? Yeah, the Folsom Street Foundry, right? It's
It's this weekend, right?
yeah, it's this
Yep,
weekend.
this weekend.
It's a great
Yeah,
venue if you guys never been there.
I think I'm casting it too.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
You think you're casting that?
I like
Okay.
that. Reynad's like, I'm not sure. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
That's cool. I can't remember quite. It's possible. Yeah. That's funny.
No, I'm not sure either. I think so though. I think it
Yeah,
is
no,
this
that'd be
weekend.
great. I mean,
Awesome.
all of you guys there. It's going to be perfect, I think, for all the viewers. But yeah, the venue's great. So if you guys are local too, man, go check it out. Or if you've never been to Foundry, it's actually a really good place for just to hang out, grab a beer as a game or two. See, next up, though, Collegiate Hearthstone Championship. So that started up last week or two also, just with North American colleges for the most. That's all I've seen so far. And they've been doing this 3-man team, kind of playing each other. Been kind of interesting. I've always been an advocate of the college scene, just having college leagues and that sort of thing, just because college sports is huge, right, in the U.S. So, college esports seems to be in that. I mean, the college demographic is perfect, I think, for our game and everything too. So that's going on too. I think ESL is hosting up that. You should guys check that out. TESPA, I think ESL is doing the production. If your school's participating in it, check that out too. It's pretty cool. You can go to compete.tespa.org to find out some more information about that. And then lastly, so some news with a player that we all know joining team. So Dog's joining Liquid. So one of your teammates, Savjz. So how do you feel about? We had Dog on the night before he announced this, right? So I was just like, dude, why didn't you just wait for the show? But he said, no, I had to actually travel the next day, and they wanted to announce it on the next day. But that would have been fun. But yeah, what do you think about Dog, new teammate?
Well, I'm honestly really happy about it. We're good friends with Dog, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah.
I talked with him a bunch before the signing, and I really think he's a perfect fit for the team. Everyone from Team Liquid as well, like from owners to managers to everyone, just thinks that for our team, Dog is perfect. And I think that, well, I guess time will show, but I'm pretty sure that's gonna be the case.
Yeah, he seemed actually really excited when I talked to him. I mean, he left Complexity to go to Liquid, so of course, we
former
talked about
teammate.
it a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, former teammate. But I feel like in Hearthstone, everyone in the scene's kind of in a little family, right? Like, it doesn't seem like the teams matter, but ultimately people want the best for each other. I haven't really noticed too much animosity between players. Where there is some, but granted, it's kind of it's not rampant. Like it would be in some of the other games that I've seen. So
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, there's zero drama about anything about the change. Basically, just what happened was his contract with Complexity ended, and he chose to join us. So if somebody wants drama, sorry, there's none.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Anyways, really happy. Happy that Dog's just in what he thinks is just better situation for himself. So that's really, really cool. Okay, so let's have a discussion topic here that I know it's been a very popular discussion for a while now, or at least some kind of version of it. But recently, there's been some even at the championships, there's even more sentiments about just the tournament formats, right? The conquest format just really being stale. We're seeing the same decks all the time. We're kind of just seeing just the like, for lack of better words, just lack of strategy involved, in terms of picking decks and what to play beforehand. It's just everybody's just playing whatever kind of gives you the highest percentage win rate, and that's kind of what Reynad was talking about earlier. What do you guys think right now? Like, what are all your opinions right now in just the tournament format situation?
Who wants to start?
All right,
Yeah, you can go ahead. I know you have a lot of thoughts.
I think all of you have
just
a lot
go
to say.
all in. Just do it.
I don't even know where to start. I'm just like
Start with Patron.
No. Just start with the format. Let's start with Conquest. Let's start with
Okay.
Conquest.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Conquest? Patron? Which one?
So let's start with Conquest, and I'm sure Patron will work its way into the. But
Yeah.
let's talk about that. So Conquest has been the most popular format for a year now, at least a year now, and outside of maybe some team tournaments and that sort of thing, we haven't really seen anything like. No more last class, last hero standing, that sort of stuff, or at least not as many of those. So Conquest, what do you think of the state of Conquest right now?
Okay, let's start with that. So I think Conquest needs to go. I actually like, a lot of people ever since it was introduced were like kind of like I don't like that format. I think it's bad format. But the issues that are arising right now are like so severe with just having the same decks so much, like Druid, Warlock, Patrons. Even in the future, if some of those decks, like one of them fades away, I think we're gonna be stuck with another like similar type of lineup and a lot of repeats. So I think it's absolutely mandatory that we move back into some kind of ban format. It can be anything. It can be like Conquest with one ban. It can be last hero standing. I don't even care. I just want to see a ban.
Yeah, I agree. I can agree with that for sure.
I think the problem with Conquest is like the optimal way to have a lineup is you just play like the 3 highest win percentage things, or the ones that have the highest win percentage across the board, or the decks you're most likely to see. And there's not much like strategy that goes into it. Like you just pick the decks that are the best, and then you play them, and you hope you think a little bit, or you don't when you try to pick the order you play them, and hopefully you get the good matchups, and hopefully you draw well, and that's the strategy. So it becomes a very random format, and I think that they're like. The problem is everyone's like, okay, well, Conquest sucks, but what's better? And nobody ever has a good solution,
Right.
really. I think that a format that would showcase skill more is a format that hurts the viewer experience a lot, to be honest. I think that the nice thing about Conquest is it's a lot like Ladder. You pick the decks that are the best online, drool a little on the table and click stuff and hope you win. And that's really relatable because people can take the decks from those lineups and win with them. But as soon as you introduce a format with like bans and stuff, then the decks start being built in very warped ways often. So that kind of like the other extreme end of the spectrum where the better player wins the most, I think the format would be like really complicated. There'd be it would be something like Via Game maybe, or something where there's just a lot of stuff going on so that there's more room to make errors if you're a bad player. Because like when you're thinking about 9 classes and stuff, you have to keep all these like win percentages in your mind. For every deck, you have to keep in mind like 8 or 9 win percentages against other decks, and then that's like a lot of numbers to keep track of and a lot of game experience that you need to properly execute a ban phase with like 9 classes. So I think like the best player winning would happen more often in a complicated ban format where a bunch of stuff's going on. And then I think that Conquest, where there's like no banning and just you play stuff that's good, that's going to have a lot more random results usually. And there's probably like a happy medium, but it would be something pretty boring like Conquest with 1 ban or something. I don't think they would make a huge jump right away. They would do a slight shift.
Well, so you don't think I'm what I'm taking from that is you're saying it wouldn't be as relatable, like having something more complex for the viewers. But Via Game, if I remember correctly, that was a success, right? That event went really well. I think the community enjoyed that event, and I don't think there were very many complaints about the format.
Yeah, for like the hardcore Hearthstone watching audience, there aren't. But for something like BlizzCon, where we're gonna break 200K viewers, and for half of the people, it's their first time watching Hearthstone or watching a Hearthstone tournament, they are not gonna want to watch a 9-class ban system that they can't wrap their head around. They're gonna be overwhelmed and they're gonna tune out. So for BlizzCon, it's a very different story. It's a different viewer base. It's not like the established community. We're actually like the minority for that event. So I don't know. People have to kind of keep that in mind. And I think that like the way I would do it, I think the best like purest format in Hearthstone is probably like no deck submissions. Like you build a deck and then you play a game, and then you leave the challenge screen and you build another deck and then you play a game. And it's just like ladder. People can screenshot your decks, or people can work it into the overlay. It's like very pure, and it scares a lot of other pros because they can't game a ban system. They can't grind for 12 hours a day and net deck like whatever best 3 decks they can. They have to like think on the spot and adapt. And there's a lot of like mind games that go on with that. Is he going to play the same deck twice in a row because it has the best win percentage? Or, you know, so I think that would be what I would do. But that's.
I mean, I definitely like that sort of premise of being able to change decks, you know, between game to game. I do still like the heroes. There's some kind of parameters around, you know, the heroes you can use, so that there's at least some strategy. There's some strategy to planning, because if you can play any random deck, then it could be just kind of random, except for the possible mind games. You know, just that, you know, the mind games. Is he going to play the same deck or not?
Well, right now you play 3 decks that you know your opponent is going to play. The Druid, Handlock, Patron.
Absolutely, that's
right?
not good.
And it's still random. So I don't think that like knowing what classes your opponent has to play reduces the randomness at all. I think that I don't know. I think that kind of format is a lot more interesting than people give credit to. They're just kind of scared of the unknown and scared of like.
It's like a big sideboard. Like when you think about it, really, it's like you have. You know, unbound sideboard, just do whatever the hell you want with your deck.
Exactly.
Like somebody I remember brought up the idea that you could bring a class, and within the class you do anything you want. But that's like that might be viable, say, you know, a year down the line when every class has multiple archetypes. Right now, you know, some of them do. You know, you have about like 2 archetypes per class on average. I mean, at least. But it like you'll pick Warlock if you're gonna bring a class that has the ability to sideboard everything. So it's kind of. You're still in a position right now where like a full-blown sideboard with just naming a class wouldn't make sense. So you either have to go all the way, or if you make like a smaller sideboard, like 4 cards, then the question still stays of, you know, are the tech cards even good enough to counter some of the best decks right now? And to some extent, you could say that they really don't help that much.
You would see so much Warlock in that kind of format. I think it's a huge issue. Other than that, I really like it. If we were seeing variety, but I fear that it would be like 9 out of 10 Warlocks in that case.
I mean, we could do a hybrid of all those things. We could do.
Oh damn! Go ahead.
I mean, we could do. I don't know. Here's an idea: Conquest, basically, with more than 3 classes. I'd like to see more than 3 classes, and I understand the reason why there's 3 classes, because it's more of a production, I think, limitation, trying to show every match and that sort of thing to the viewers. But if you could even get to 5, and then you could switch what. You know, maybe the classes are still like 5 unique classes, but you can switch between whatever class decks. So like the Warlock, right? You could play a Zoolock, just as an example, a Zoolock versus, and then the next game, you say you have to play it again, you can switch it to a Handlock if you think it's a better matchup type of thing. I think that's better. It's not the perfect fix, but I think it's probably a little easier, or just an easier fix for now.
Maybe you can't play the same class twice in a row. Then there's strategy.
Right.
And then you know, I can play a deck that loses to every Warlock because he can't play Warlock again.
Yeah, that's true. I think that would be.
What about something like 5 decks and just go like pick 1, ban 1, pick 1, ban 1? Then we see like, I don't know. Would that make any sense?
So each
person
person
add some like variety and strategy.
2 ban phases.
Yeah, because you can like ban twice, and it's simple enough that it doesn't really like take a long time or confuse anyone.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just worried about like the rank 25 player just like finish the tutorial. He's gonna tune into BlizzCon, watch some people play Hearthstone, and there's like all these red X's happening, and he's like, "What? Everyone has 5 decks."
I mean, that happens in League.
Why
can't
you
doesn't
ban
that happen
that
in
stuff?
League though? I mean, just like with the ban, like the ban process for a noob.
Right, but
playing
here's the
League.
thing about League: when people play League, that ban process happens. It's in the game, right?
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
I
So
agree
what you're
with-
saying is we need tournament lobbies to get people used to the idea of a tournament format with rules in them.
You just play pure Hearthstone. You have a collection, and you build a deck with it, and then you play the deck.
I agree with Reynad that something like the VR Game House Cup format could never be used in BlizzCon, and for BlizzCon the Conquest is much more suitable. I hope that VR Game, if they do another cup, that they're gonna stick to their format because it's really cool. But I think that like slightly adjusting it, maybe adding more strategy into it would still be easily enough understood by the viewers. So it has to be like something in between. And I don't know what the perfect format would be. It would require a lot of thought, but it should be slightly more rewarding.
Let's do the last lineup standing. So we have like a best of 5, and you have 3 lineups, and you can reuse the same lineup after you've won with one. Right? Is that the way we have to do it now? Just like hybridize everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a kind of worms because I like Swiss a lot. Like for card games, the problem is it's really unmanageable as far as organizing tournaments. You can do it and organize it, but as far as viewership, you don't get to follow everything that happens. The organizers have to pick like one game that they want to cast at once or one match, and then you end up with a huge disparity. Well, if there's enough contestants, then you have some people who want to drop because they've already lost at some point during the entire thing, so they know they can't get in the top, let's say top 3, and they're just gonna stop playing or stop caring, which means that as a viewer you have no enjoyment of watching those guys. And it's kind of difficult to implement Swiss in Hearthstone, but I really wish there was a clean way to do it.
I think it's a pretty good format.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about just the limitation of having to show all the matches? Do you think that's super? Do you think that is a requirement right now for Hearthstone events?
Not all, no, you don't have to, but I think people expect to see some of their matches at least.
Well, of course some. I mean, of course some. It's just I feel like a lot of these brackets are limited in sizes or even just limited in the format, just how many decks you can bring, purely because they want to be able to show like 8 hours, 9 hours of the event, and they want to be able to show all the matches. I know I took that into account whenever I organized a couple events.
This is getting a little bit sidetracked, but I want to bring it up that actually, like, about streaming all the matches, I think it really should happen, at least on some kind of like B streams and stuff, because what happened to me in DreamHack Summer this year was that I was on the stream for my first match, or was it the second match, and then for the third game I was up against a Warlock. I had a Warlock in my lineup, I was on the stream, he knew what I was playing, he had a Warlock. I had no clue what Warlock he was playing, so when we match up the Warlocks, he knew what the Mulligan format, I didn't, because I was on the stream.
Oh, I see. So there wasn't a fairness of even just information available, right?
Yeah, so it's like that kind of issues also need to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, a lot of tournaments have that problem, though. I think the only solution is like if a player that was on camera is, if a player that was on camera is involved in a match, then the deck list should be shown to each player, maybe. But then he could tell his friends what's in everyone's deck after the match, and it's like there's no clean solution really.
Well, the clean solution is not having to have to play those decks that you submitted, right? Being able to switch them up.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's another way to fix that issue.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
I think you just like expose all the deck list after they're submitted. I think that would be fine. Just put it all out there. Like, why not? There's not that many like surprises, really. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the whole process of submitting is really annoying too. I mean, some people don't like do it in time, and they'll stall for like 12 hours and get extra time to practice, and then some people will legitimately cheat in things like ESL cups where they'll submit something and then change it as they play.
Yeah.
It's just like it adds all of this. Like you're restricting yourself as a player that wants to play fairly, but then there's like always this risk that your opponent's not doing the same. So I don't know. I think like not the whole process of submitting it's stupid that that's considered mandatory for some reason, and then I think that for tournaments, I think it's kind of ridiculous that it's expected to have every match streamed. Like you will still have 9 hours of content with a good mix of unknown players and pros if you do a Swiss format. I mean, you have your 3 games that are being recorded, one of them streamed at a time. If they finish early, you switch on to one of the other games. And, I mean, that's just a pretty clean way to do it, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, I like Swiss more than anything else, so I have to agree. It's just that the problems we ran into initially when Hearthstone came out, when the whole tournament format discussions started, like in alpha or beta even, the time constraint of Swiss to some extent was an issue. But then again, as you said, you don't have to show everything. And the problem you're running into is that some matches, like as you said, you have to take some of the I guess the bigger names if you want to show their match. You have to record their game, so they have to be recording it themselves in some way, and then that has to be broadcasted or queued after something else. So you'd have to do a lot more pre-recording, which is an organizer issue. It's not so much a viewer one. Viewer wouldn't care too much, I think. So,
Well, you could leverage community streamers too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what other games do, right? StarCraft did it, and I know even some of the other bigger games do the same thing. Just grab some community streamers that are like willing to help for free, volunteer, and they'd love to, and just have them show some of those games that aren't, basically scheduled for the mainstream.
The cool thing is the spectator mode makes it so easy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The tournament could be happening somewhere, and some guy at home from the community can, message them and say, "Hey, add me in the game," and then all of a sudden he can broadcast that game.
No, they did that for Prague. Like the matches that were not on the mainstream were on community streams.
Yeah.
I think
every single one of them.
Thing.
Those were different language streams, though, right?
No, it was actually an English stream.
Oh, they were all English? Oh, okay, I didn't realize
there
that.
was an English stream showing like all the matches that we couldn't show.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They had multiple languages. You're right. Like they had a French guy, they had an English guy, they had a Russian as well. So it's like really they tried to make it so everybody could watch it at some point on some channel. I mean, I didn't really. I was supposed to cast some of the games, but I ended up not having time. Apparently, they were giving people clean feeds, so it'd be, like everybody could do that with just about any tournament. That was like one of the times that it's been done. But you mentioned StarCraft 2. That was a pretty big success over there. Like people just liked getting the games into their hands and commentating over it. So I don't know. I think that's a viable approach.
There's some big name like StarCraft 2 being an example, right? Nathanius, he's like one of the go-to casters nowadays, right? He started off doing exactly that, just being the BC stream for some of the events, and ended up basically being a main caster now. So it's a great opportunity for other people that want to get into the community and just be part of this whole casting scene, as well as it helps, I think, event organizers in a big way. And overall, just like you said, we had more flexibility to do cooler formats. But yeah, hopefully, I think it's too late to change anything this year for BlizzCon.
Yeah,
right.
So we're going to be seeing the same thing, obviously, in the next week, month, leading up to the grand finals. But 2016, hopefully we can try out some new things. All right, well, let's see. We didn't talk about the meta being stale, but I think that's kind of like that's discussed like every single week, so won't talk about it. Unless there's something you can add, Savjz, that's like something with the highest tier. Is there anything that we can do or
I just think that the best, because it needs to be somehow like refreshed, because I don't think TGT did that. The meta cycle is completely stuck. There's not that many new cards. I think that the viewer experience is not as good as it could be. So I think that if you're a tournament organizer, you should be looking at other formats than Conquest. But like we talked about earlier, just like keep it in mind not to make it too complex. But yeah, so that's pretty much that. I think we need more formats.
Okay. Well, let's move on to Tavern Brawl. So we never talk about Tavern Brawl on Value Town. So let's kick things off by just the general question: do you guys like Tavern Brawl as just a different play mode right now? Noxious, start with you.
It's kind of weird because I feel like the initial like the idea was good. They did say that they were working on a tournament, like in-game tournament system, and then they decided to switch to Tavern Brawl instead or something, or they prioritized it over tournament system. I still would rather have had tournament lobbies, but with the advent of Tavern Brawl, they tried out all sorts of rule sets. But I think they just had no one really test them at all. Like I don't mind rule switches. In fact, I love them. It feels like it was just thrown out there. Like somebody comes up with an idea, let's give everybody bananas, and who gives a crap where that goes, right? So Zoo takes it, Tempo Mage takes it. It's a spell. What do you think is gonna happen? So it's been kind of hit or miss for the most part. But I feel like the one we have. That we had with the your life total had to be 3 or 4 behind your opponent if you wanted to get a free minion, or the Boombot versus an Oiltron, or the one that we've got this week. they have been made, if I'm not mistaken, by the same guy, which is a guy they hired recently or rehired from the WoW dev team, Pat Nagel, believe it or not, and he's
That's his
basically in
name?
charge of
Okay.
That's where Nat Piggle comes from.
Oh,
Like,
okay. I
that's
didn't even
gonna-
realize that. Wow. Okay.
And he's, from what I gather, if he's the one behind those, then things are just gonna get better. And I'm pretty happy because I think it's a nice break from the typical grind.
Reynad, what do you think? Tavern Brawl.
Tavern Brawl's cool. I mean, I think it's good for the game, and it lets them do a lot of exciting stuff that we wouldn't see otherwise. It's like for me personally, it's not very competitive, so I don't play it for the same reason I don't play Arena. There's not really like a ladder type thing. Some of them I do enjoy a lot. I like the really high skill cap ones. Like I like the banana one a lot. It's really cool to
So
like that one. It was actually really hard to play mechanically, which made it really fun for me.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that Tavern Brawl is a good thing for the game, even though I don't play it too much. I play maybe like once per brawl, if that. I never even played the 3 life one. Probably not going to play the one this week, but we'll see.
Savjz?
Yeah, I think Tavern Brawl is really cool. I play maybe like half an hour a week if it's or an hour a week when it comes out if it's interesting. I like the pre-made decks more than the ones where you build because I just don't feel like it's worth it too. Because there's nothing once you figure out an awesome deck list, I just feel like there's nothing at the end of the line. There's no special reward or anything. So I'm not interested enough to start. Like for example, this week's Brawl, I actually think it's really cool, but I'm not interested enough to like spend hours to try to figure out a good deck list.
Yeah,
So,
there's not a tournament for you to go to, right? Like you build a deck list that's amazing. Like the Banana Brawl, there was one event I remember Ghost 2 Gamers ran, and like there was this crazy shaman deck that I came up with, and somebody ran it to first place or something, and it was super fun.
Nice.
But like you have this tournament system with crazy rule sets, and unfortunately, after the 4 days are gone, that's it. Like every minute you've spent deck building or brainstorming is for naught, basically. So until the Tavern Brawl comes back in rotation, which it might not, you kind of go nowhere. And I feel like that lack of permanence, to an extent, kind of makes the whole experience a little less compelling if you're into deck building. So pre-made decks, as a result, are just easier to go into.
I think Tavern Brawl was made to be more casual mode than like think of it as the casual mode for instead of Arena. Arena has a cost to it, right? You have to actually pay gold to enter into the arena, and this was just kind of like a free casual mode type of thing. But I agree. I mean, I actually think there are very interesting elements to it that could be for the hardcore gamers right now, and unfortunately there's not. So I don't know if there needs to be a separate Tavern Brawl. You know what I mean? That's more for competitive. But if it is a Tavern Brawl that it involves you building your own deck, then we're in the same boat to that whole free to play, like, or just that whole discussion, right? Like people that have more cards are gonna have more. It's an advantage over the next guy, and that sort of thing. That's kind of where the pre-built decks are nice because we're all in the same boat, right? We just kind of playing each other.
Yeah. Some people different people like different things, and for some people it might be interesting. And the deck building is exactly where the fun is at. But I just for me, the deck building to be fun. Like it's just a personal thing. There should be something at the end of the line, something that you get maybe a special reward or something.
Maybe if you win like 20 or 40 or something like that, I think would be kind of cool if they would make a goal, just some kind of win goal right now, right?
Just you get to open with a golden card in it, and then you get 20 wins or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Achievements. That's the next system they have to put in the game, basically. Like, we're just waiting on that, where you just have to, kill a young priestess with a mad bomber on turn 5, and then you get some random achievement. It's gonna be like, they're gonna push it one day.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, let's take a really quick break. Before we go to a quick break, it's gonna be a really quick one, just to grab a drink and that sort of thing, guys. But before we do that, I just want to remind you guys that if you guys enjoy the show and want to support the show, that there is a Patreon available, patreon.com/valuetown. Best way to, again, support myself and the show and keep this show going and as good as it can possibly be. You can take a look at all the rewards and cool milestones and things over there. But hang tight. We'll be right back.